Ohio State at Wisconsin Saturday. College basketball VR. We're doing this wise guy style. So there's no line out. What is your number on this game?
My true line, this is a coin flip. I made it a pick'em, Ohio State pick'em, and total 122.
Okay, now, where value is where your true line differs from the fair line.
Exactly.
So this is, when we talk about the fair line, it's what the bookies put out in an attempt to split the action. So what are you projecting the fair line to be?
They got to send Ohio State out as the favorite, as a road favorite in this game. And I think when they do, there's going to be a ton of value on Wisconsin.
So you're at 2.5 or 3?
Yeah, you give me 2.5 or 3, and I'm all over the Badgers.
All right, so why is the public wrong in this case?
Bottom line, this team don't lose at home. Wisconsin just doesn't lose at home. Whenever they're faced with a challenge, they've stepped up. Purdue went in there, ranked, top 10 in the country, and what happened? Wisconsin wins and covers the number. And then after that game, Michigan State came in, and what did they do? Beat Michigan State, covered the number. They had Iowa the other day on the road, another tough place to go play. Rather than look ahead, they ended up winning that game in overtime. They didn't cover, but they did get the win in overtime. And I think as far as mentally coming into this game, that was huge for them. If they would have lost that Iowa game, I would have been a little afraid to back Wisconsin. How are they going to handle that loss? But being it was a close game,
so they got
went
momentum.
to overtime,
got momentum.
They got great momentum
But
coming
they didn't
in.
cover, so you've got people that were disappointed betting them and not inclined maybe to bet them again.
Exactly.
Okay, so to me, this is one of my favorite types of games. Whenever I can identify a team that the public is in love with, that you really now with Ohio State being undefeated, whenever they play, it's national news. On Twitter, as soon as the game's final, it goes out. Today I just saw on Twitter that some of the books were putting out odds of them going undefeated.
Correct.
So the talk is now, is this team an undefeated level team? Now, as soon as that's the talk, the square bettor is going to really not be inclined to fade them.
Exactly. And when you see the undefeated #1 team in the nation and you're getting them around a bucket favorite.
Which they're thinking, hey, I just got to pick the winner.
Exactly.
And that's just a pure value play. So really, with Ohio State at this point, it's almost like the sharps, unless it's a rare occasion, are going to be fading or passing.
Exactly.
Because it's going to be hard to find value.
Yeah, not with Ohio State. Right now, you're only going to find value going against them. And just because you're going to find value doesn't mean you're going to cash a ticket. That's the
because
problem.
that value is only about a point maybe.
Exactly.
So you need 2.5 more towards, or even 3. 3 maybe is the best bet. 2.5 is a nice play. So you've got to have a reason other than the premium on Ohio State to be fading them, because the premium only gets you 1 point. You need to get 2.5 or 3.
This being a Saturday primetime ESPN
A more
matchup,
public game.
Exactly. I think we're going to get an even more inflated number.
Okay, and you think Wisconsin is underrated at home especially.
Exactly.
So that gets you up to that 2.5 point range.
And even going a little deeper and looking at the matchup, when it comes to Ohio State, when one player like Jared Sullinger leads in everything, when you got a guy that leads in points, leads in assists, leads in field goal percentage.
Now Sullinger, isn't that a sub shop? I'm thinking something like that.
It's not. So far, don't get me wrong, no one's been able to stop them, but it's easier to game plan when you know what you got to do. Mm-hmm. And I think the defense...
Now, Wisconsin's would be considered a very fundamentally sound team?
Exactly, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Surprisingly enough, offensively is where they surprised a lot myself this year. This team is, I wouldn't say a stud offensively, but extremely efficient offensively. If you look at their efficiency offensively, I say they're probably in the top 5 in the country. Without even looking, I would say they're in the top 5 in the country, this team. But when, like I was saying, getting back to Jared Sullinger, I just think Wisconsin plays the kind of style that's going to give Ohio State problems. Because Ohio State will slow it down, play lockdown defense, frustrate you, and take those high percentage shots. So only problem with that, Wisconsin will slow it down even more. Like if you think you're going to frustrate us, you haven't seen anything yet.
So do you see this being a lower scoring game? Is your total, do you think the total's coming out higher?
I'm hoping that there's some value on the total. I think they're going to bring this total out at around 126, 127.
And your projection?
122. So I think we're looking at a possible correlated play here with Wisconsin in the under.
Now, is it, because you can have, now let's talk about this. You can have a side and a total in the same game and it not be correlated.
Here it has to be.
All right, so you think Wisconsin's ability to slow the game down is going to lead to their ability to win and cover.
Exactly, and if Wisconsin gets this win, it'll be by the game staying under.
Okay, so what you're saying is if you get a 126 or so, and you get plus 2.5 or so, you're playing a correlated parlay.
Put them together.
And just for the newbies out there, and I'm looking out to the main camera, the newbies, a correlated parlay is where one of the events is correlated and it affects the second event. So VR, what you're saying is keeping the game low scoring affects Wisconsin's ability to cover.
Exactly.
Okay, now that's interesting. So let's talk for a minute about, we were talking about 2.5 points of value on the side. How many points of value do you need on a total? I know it's more.
Yeah.
Because the variance in total results, the tighter a line is, the more valuable every half point is. Totals are less tight.
I'd say around a 5. I look for about over 4.5, 5 for myself. If the situation falls under it as well. I mean, you're going to bet, I bet for line value, obviously, but again, sometimes there may look like there's line value, but then the situation doesn't favor that team or that
But if the situation doesn't favor that team, you're going to adjust your number and that line value's not there.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. Your numbers aren't just you've got a power ranking and you do the math, 119 minus 117 equals 2.
No, it's based on this matchup.
Exactly. So you have a starting point with the general strength of the teams. Now, is there a situational
That's why
factor?
at 122, if I get 126.5 or better, there's value on the under for me because of that fact. That number's based on this matchup, not on taking one away from the other.
You're right. In case you were wondering, you're right.
Once in a while.
Now, last point I want to make.
60% of the time in college.
So far this year. Oh, you got that in.
I had to throw it in there.
Fair enough. Now and again. Once every taping day.
I get accused of being a tout, so please.
Hey, all touting is letting people know what they need to know. That's the way I see it. I mean, imagine if a chick wanted to take you out. You're married. Family man.
Family man.
But let's imagine there was a chick who wanted to take you out, and she gave the best BJ in the country. How mad would you be if she didn't tell you about that when you were deciding what to do?
Furious.
You'd be like, you don't have the information you need
how could I handicap this play?
How can you make a decision?
How do I know what position to take?
If you're 60% in college and you don't tell people, it's the same thing.
You're absolutely right.
I was going to give one more little tidbit, but your touting prevented me. So the viewers are actually going to have to keep watching for this one to come out. All right, give us your official projection then.
Wisconsin and under.
All right, and Wisconsin at 2.5 or better.
Exactly.
And the under at 126 or better?
Exactly.
All right, now it's your turn to continue the conversation in the comment section with VR and me. And next up, we're going to be talking about our fourth and final Saturday college basketball game.